Welcome back, folks. We're going to be looking at Section C again. This time we're going to focus on subsections C5 through C9. And as I was saying at the end of the last video, C5 through C9 really just represent the rank matrix categories: mastery of subject matter, effectiveness in teaching, scholarly ability, effective university service, and continuing growth. Now, there are two key places where you can gather information related to these areas, one of which is going to be the CVs themselves, which, if updated appropriately, should give you a sense of what faculty are doing in these various areas. Of course, you will see a potential overlap. For example, when it comes to mastery of subject matter, sometimes remaining current in our field is a matter of publication, right? Researching and writing on new trends in a specific discipline. In those cases, you're probably going to find that certain things will be housed here and in the scholarly ability section. The second place where you will probably get, I think, a more targeted and nuanced look at these areas is through the faculty information forms, which you may or may not have access to depending on your faculty's willingness to share. If you don't have access to those because you're a coordinator of a specific program, it would be a good idea to reach out to faculty and ask them if they're willing to share faculty information forms with you. Let them know that you're not going to include the faculty information forms themselves in the assessment in the major or self-study, but that you're just going to look at them to get examples of the five areas in the rank matrices and what faculty are doing in your area. Now, one thing that you're going to want to do here is you can be as general or specific as you want to. So when you check this area out, the best thing to do is go for text and image. And you can either provide us with examples of things that faculty are doing. I usually start by looking at the faculty information forms of the CVs and making a list. And I'd say, okay, some faculty are doing recent trends in discipline via scholarship. That's great. I might even make a note of which faculty 1, faculty 3, let's just say. And then others are taking training courses via SUNY CPD. That's the Center for Professional Development. So let's say that's faculty number 2, just hypothetically. Then I might say, okay, when it comes to mastery of subject matter, postdoc, right? Maybe we've got faculty number 4 is doing postdoc. Maybe another faculty member is completing a terminal degree. That might be, let's say, faculty 1's doing that as well. So these are the kind of things that we're looking for. So I would usually just make a note of that so that I could develop the narrative a little bit later on. I've done all the scavenger hunting that I need to. I've got just a general reflection of what folks are doing, and then we go from there. The great thing about this is that you'll start to get a sense of where your faculty are the strongest in these areas. Of course, you'll hit save and return. I'm going to hit cancel. Let's just discard that for the time being. Check this in. For example, when you get done with this, you'll be able to go back through and see which areas your faculty excel at and which ones maybe faculty are struggling with a little bit. When it comes to effectiveness in teaching, they're asking us to describe programs, procedures for evaluating effectiveness in teaching. Also include activities available to improve teaching, okay? You may highlight faculty innovation in teaching as well. Now, a lot of this will be captured in the faculty portfolios, which you may or may not have access to, CVs, faculty information forms. Those are the big areas that you're going to want to try to gain access to if faculty are willing. And if I haven't mentioned student evaluations, you can mention those as well. Now, do we need to include the student evaluations in the assessment in the major? Not necessarily, but you at least have to mention that the student evaluations are a part of this process. And again, I'm just making notes right now. So that's one way that we know that we can engage in determining whether or not a faculty member is effective at teaching. We can also talk about, again, CPD courses, because those are an opportunity for faculty to improve their teaching and quality of teaching. There are also online learning workshops that are available. Now what you can do is you can search your email for those. Another place to go would be to Center for Online Learning. Search that up, CLDIOI. And you'll see faculty resources here, and they have a host of webinars, workshops, and training. There's a spring 2024 schedule that you could link to very easily, and there are a plethora of opportunities to improve your teaching contained herein. So sometimes it's a matter of just looking at a specific category like effectiveness in teaching and sitting back and thinking, what do we have here that really helps to support faculty in their effectiveness in teaching? There are, of course, opportunities for growth. There are, of course, detective measures, right? Like student evaluations, so that we can see what kinds of problems there are. There are also informal detective measures like rate my professor and things like that, but I would not put those here because those are not always kosher, and it's very difficult to track whether or not actual students are putting information into rate my professor or other people are putting information in, including and up to other faculty who are putting information into sabotage colleagues and things along those lines. I've seen no evidence of that here at our institution, but I have heard horror stories at other institutions. So you have to be mindful of those kinds of things as well. Make a list, and then afterwards you can begin developing your narrative. And I would suggest categorizing it as, of course, there are the detective measures that help ensure faculty are doing their due diligence. And then there are opportunities for growth. Boom. You can add that information in there. I am going to, actually in this case I will save and return because those are helpful pieces of information. We're all set there. When it comes to scholarly ability, the same thing applies here. You're going to be looking at the FIFs if you have access to them. You're going to be looking at the CVs, and I really recommend that you consider attaching or linking to scholarship in your discipline, if at all possible. I know from personal experience that in my accounting program, the accounting program that's under my purview currently, we have two faculty members, one of which is very steeped in industry experience, so that's going to fall under mastery of subject matter, and another that is very strong when it comes to scholarly ability. They've been established for a long time. They're doing a lot of peer-reviewed journal writing, much of which is available in as open educational resources. So I will be able to link to those very quickly in this category. Of course, we can describe that in narrative fashion as well. And then down here it says teaching can be included as a form of scholarship in many fields, and innovation and or research in teaching and pedagogy may be included here as well. Be careful, because the rank matrices may have been revised since that was a caveat that was allowed, or your personal rank matrix may not allow for that to be included. So you want to take a look at that and make sure that you're on the right track. When it comes to effectiveness in university service, that is also a place where you're going to be looking at the CVs, and you're going to be looking at the FIFs if you can get access to those. And the continuing growth it's going to be really important that you try to get information from the faculty information forms for the continuing growth, because that's where that's most frequently reflected. And if it's not, you may actually have to sit down with individual faculty and talk to them about their continuing growth. But let's get back to effectiveness in university service. I always suggest narrative, of course, and breaking it down by governance and non-governance. And when you're talking about governance, what kinds of committees are faculty in your department participating on? Are they in leadership roles? What kinds of strides have they made in those roles? Uh-oh, we're running low on time here. And then with non-governance, the same questions apply. Just as an example, I know that there are multiple faculty over the past couple of years who have done some great work on the curriculum committee, moving the dial forward by streamlining processes, setting stricter parameters on acceptances. Finding new ways for approval processes to happen, things along those lines. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to talk about in these areas. So hopefully that gives you a chance to get started on the second half of Section C. We'll jump into Section D in a subsequent video in just a moment here. But we'll end here because we are running low on time for our YouTube videos.